And once again, I just first and foremost, I want to thank Christopher Dedeyan for agreeing to come and share his wisdom and share his knowledge and help us to be better peak performers and high performers. Hi, Julie, how are you? We have London represented, we have UK represented, we have Brooklyn represented, we have the Westchester County represented, we have Armenia represented, we have Europe, we have Georgia. We've got everybody from all over. So, anyways,
Do we
I'm
have
gonna
any
say,
Canadians?
you're the Canadian.
I
We've
know
got
that I'm saying other than me. Is there any other Canadians?
Let's see. We don't know.
I know. So why don't we do this in the interest of time? And we're keeping track of who is coming in on time because we promised a gift for people. We're going to give you something really valuable for all of you who are here on time. I see 10 people attending so far. I know we've had more coming in. So for those of you, we'll take a screenshot of it that made it on time. You guys are going to get the Family Love Letter Workbook, which is something is written by an attorney, and I do a lot of work on it with this workbook. So we will send it to you as compliments of Acceleration Circle, compliments of Maria and I. And of course, we will sit down with you to help you go through it because it is that important. But having said that, I'm going to let Christopher introduce himself, and the podium is yours, dear. And we're all like, we cannot wait to listen to what you have to share with us today.
Perfect. Thank you very much, guys. First of all, it's such a pleasure to be amongst you today and talk about peak performance, something I'm massively passionate about, how to become a more eloquent communicator to get a positive ROI for your business. So once again, thank you for Anna and Maria for putting this together. Thank you for the Accelerate Circle and community for being here. Is there anything else that you guys need to mention, or can I dive in? Because we have a full 60 minutes ahead of us.
Dive
I
in,
want to give just
please.
massive
Go
value
ahead
to
and
the
dive
community.
in.
Let's go. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And we're going to click play here. Okay. Okay. Does everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Beautiful. So I'm going to start off. Maria, if there's any questions in the chat, please let me know because I don't have access to seeing the chat when I am on play mode like this. So if there's any questions throughout the process, guys, please jump in and we'll have some fun together.
Amazing. I will be in charge of the chat.
Let's go. So the way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. Tony Robbins. Now it says it over here. We have to be able to communicate at such a high level if you want to have the competitive advantage in regardless you're in what industry. And the best way I could explain this, honestly, let's say you have a technical skill, which is a 10 on 10, but your communication skills is a 6 on 10. What do you guys think they're going to perceive you at? A 10 on 10 or a 6 on 10? Put it in the chat. Maria, let me know what the people are going to answer. I'll wait a few seconds here. So once again, if your technical skills are a 10 on 10 and your speaking skills, your communication skills is a 6 on 10, what is your colleagues, what is your clients, what are your employees going to perceive you as?
So everyone is saying 6.
That is correct. That is 100% correct. Awesome job, guys. 10 points for Gryffindor. Now, the opposite is true as well. Let's say your technical skills is 6 on 10, but your communication skills are 10 on 10. Now, what are they going to perceive you as? 6 on 10 or 10 on 10? They're going to perceive you as a 10 on 10, even though your technical skills not there. And we could even think about some politicians, not to go into the political aspect, but we know some people that are so great communicators, but they don't have the talent to back it up. But yet again, we follow them. That's how important and powerful the art of communication is. And this is something I had to develop at a very young age without even knowing. So this was a day that was very important in my life. This is the first day I went into school. I was 8 years old. And I know this is an important day for many people as well. For me, it was a bit different because this is the first moment that the Ministry of Education puts a barrier to entry or puts a way to really qualify your level of intelligence. Now, granted, they don't specify it like that or they don't call it like that, but that's what happens. What they do is They teach us letters. They take those letters, they put it in words, and then they take those words and they put it in phrases, and then they ask us to read and write these words. At that moment, I realized that there was something wrong with me. I wasn't reading the same level as my peers. I was having a hard time following them and being at the same level. Now, I wasn't the only one that realized this. My parents realized it as well. So what they did is they got me tested, and finally, at the age of 8, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. Now it's a panic in my household. My parents are like, oh my God, what did we do? Did we feed these kids something we shouldn't have? I'm telling you, every immigrant parent thinks that the problem or the solution to whatever's going on is with food. This is not the case. Dyslexia is a learning disability that has to do with your neural pathways that don't connect in a certain way when it comes to reading and writing. It's something you're born with. So as they did more research, my parents, they found the school that's the ideal for me, which was a school called Vanguard in the greater region of Montreal, where I'm from currently in Canada. And it's a school that's specialized for students with learning disabilities. So they put me into that school. The first thing that I realized is that I wasn't alone. There was hundreds of kids like me that had learning disabilities, from dyslexia, dysgraphia, ADHD, hyperactivity, and beyond. And then I figured out that I really didn't have that much problems. It was just a different way I needed to learn. Because there was the right teachers, the right speech therapists, the right methodologies, the right technologies that I learned, I started succeeding in the education system that was given for me. And then as we kind of go on and we're at the end of high school, we get this existential question that they ask us at a very young age. What do you want to be in the world? What career do you want to pursue? Now, the first thing that came into my mind is I want to be a lawyer. I like speaking. You guys are going to see that in a few seconds. And as well, I like wearing nice clothes. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do that. But after researching a bit more what the career is, I realized that 95% of the job is reading and writing. So I'm like, okay, being dyslexic, nah, I'm not going to do that. Let me find a career that has no reading and writing or very limited. So what I decided to go into is fireman. Yes, the adrenaline, the boys, the fire trucks. That's what we wanted to go into. To become a fireman in Montreal, it's actually very difficult to get in. It took me 3 years to get into the academy. But after I got in, I went to get the professional diploma as well of fireman. And I started working in an airplane company that's called Pratt & Whitney that make airplane motors. And I was becoming an industrial fireman there. But I realized throughout the process that this is not what God put me on this planet for. This is not what I was meant to do. And throughout that process, I remember when the teachers used to come into the classroom and say, kids, put 7 teams up. Even before they finished the word 3, I had my head up and I used to look at who reads the best, who writes the best. Let me put a team together, delegate the work, delegation 101. I remember in college when I used to fail my grades, I used to go see the professor afterwards and I used to negotiate my grade up and being like, oh no, that's not what I meant in the exam. This is what I meant. Negotiation 101. I remember when I was in school, I had to show to my teachers that I wasn't stupid or lazy because I didn't have the skill set to show that in my exams due to my difficulties with reading and writing. I used to always engage and speak in class, raise my hand. I was developing a communication skills, which is massively necessary as an entrepreneur. So I decided to go into entrepreneurship as a real estate broker. Now, I know this community is very strong in entrepreneurship. And you guys know, it's not necessarily an easy field, entrepreneurship altogether. It took me a year and a half to start succeeding as a broker. The first year and a half, I literally paid to be a broker. My overhead was more than the sales I was bringing in. But then after a little while, with hard work, with dedication, with the proper mentors and methodologies around me, I started succeeding in whatever society says success is: the car, the money, the house, the clothes. And then one day, my speech therapist that used to follow me in high school gave me a call to ask me a question about a property she wanted to sell. After a few moments, she's like, Chris, how's it going with you? And I'm like, oh my God, it's going great. I'm succeeding, X, Y, and Z. And she tells me, I'm the main keynote speaker at this event put together by the Learning Disability Institute of Quebec, which is the province of where I'm from in Canada. And she's like, I would love for you to come and present your story of how you're succeeding as a dyslexic entrepreneur. I'm like, 100%, Bridget, I'd love to do that. That same evening, guys, she writes me an email in the subject, in big capitals, it's written, Chris, I don't think you should do this speech because there's still a lot of people that have a negative misconception of what dyslexia is and learning disabilities are, and you might lose some clients. Now, I knew she was coming from a place of love, but I wrote her an email, told her, I will call you tomorrow to talk about why I think I should do this speech. So the next day rolls around. Hi, Bridget, how are you? Listen, I think I have to do this speech because if I'm not doing it, I'm not helping the kids that are on the school benches right now. I'm not helping the next generation, and I'm not helping my future kids. This is something hereditary. I'll be fake. So I have to do this speech. Oh, yeah, you too? You think that? You just wanted to come for me? Beautiful. How many people are going to be at this event? 200. Oh, wow. Oh, no, it'll be good. It'll be good. All right, see you then. 200 people. I've never done a speech in my life. I did not know what to expect. I started getting ready for the speech. The day of the event comes. I open the door. I look left and right, and there isn't 200 people. It's more like 1,000 people. Now my heart is beating through my chest. I am sweating bullets. I'm like, what the heck did I get myself into? I go and I sit down, and then one speaker after another goes on stage. One has this doctorate. One has this many letters after their name. I'm like, what am I doing here? And then the moment comes. They're like, Chris, can you please come on stage and deliver your message? And the best way I could explain it with the vernacular that I have is that God was preparing me my whole life for that moment. After I got on that stage, got a standing ovation, the Ministry of Education was there. They did a reform with me. So many newspapers were there. They started writing articles about me. I knew that's what I had to do for the rest of my life. And that speech was in March 2017. And ever since, I've been blessed to travel the world, give speeches to Fortune 500 companies, from Raymax to Sanofi to Moder. I gave a speech at the Red Bull Racing Factory. I've given a speech in Armenia, my motherland. And all of this started by that one speech, starting in classrooms and beyond. And I'm truly blessed to be living my purpose and my reason of being through that process. And that first picture over here, the blue one up top, was that speech in itself in 2017. All right. So as this process went on and I went more forward in trying to figure out why people achieve at a very high level, I started asking myself what it takes to become a high performing individual, a peak performing individual, not only in your business, but in every area of your life. So to do so, as I did my research, I realized everybody talks about habits and rituals. If you do this, you'll succeed. If you do that, you'll succeed. If you do this, you will not succeed. So I started dabbling into it. So the new year started, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do a New Year's resolution. You guys are going to figure out I'm somebody slightly intense. So instead of doing one New Year's resolution, I said I'm going to do a New Year's resolution every single month, and I'm going to pick a new New Year's resolution every single month and let the previous one compound on top of the other one. So that's what I did in the month of, not month, but in the year of 2017. Every single month, I picked a new challenge. From waking up at 4 a.m., reading every single day, doing gratitude, practicing my speeches, looking at doing meditation, cold plunges, my diet, and beyond. And that was the year that I had significant return in my business and personal life in success in ways that I could not imagine. I tripled my income. I was happier. I was more control of my emotional well-being, had better relationships, and beyond. Now I'm somebody that geeks out about brain science. So I'm like, what is really happening here? What is the framework of adding habits and rituals? So my question to you guys is, how long do you think it takes in days for a habit to really be stemmed into your mind? And yeah, that's a habit that you guys do. Put it in the chat right now. How many days do you guys think it takes for a habit to really be ingrained in your mind and in your life?
So people are saying 21, 30, 72, 21, 60, 6 weeks, 21 days.
Okay, beautiful.
Many
So many answers. So we're about all over the place, which some of them are right, some of them are wrong, and 21 is the most common one. Now, the reason why you guys are saying 21 is because there was a popular book that came out from a plastic surgeon from LA. And he realized that when he was doing his plastic surgery on his clients towards, it was, I don't know, a nose job, this, that, and the other, it took about 21 days for his customers, his clients, to feel comfortable with the new changes. So he wrote a popular book, and actually people from my industry years back took it and popularized that idea that it takes 21 days for you to get used to a habit. But the reality is, it's not 21 days. It's anywhere between 18 to 254 days. So now it's a bit more, right? It's not as sexy as saying 21 days or anything in that. So the average is actually 66 days. Now, why is it such a wide day range? Is because it depends of the habit and it depends of the person. And in these 12 habits that I added in 2017, there were certain habits I picked up right away because my body had already been used to doing certain elements of it. Like I'm a guy that's athletic, so adding more workout wasn't something that was difficult for me. But there was other things that are challenging, and I still develop and fight till to this day for it to become a habit. So as I went into more in depth in this study, I realized with the research that when you're starting something new, you need to be motivated and inspired before taking that action. And that motivation starts in your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that's right behind your forehead. It's the part of the brain that is the last development part. It's the most highly cognitive part of our Homo sapiens sapiens sapien, which is our human being. So it's like prime real estate, if you could consider it as such. So in the beginning, when you're starting a new habit, it demands a lot of effort. But then as you do it consistently, what happens, it goes from your prefrontal cortex to your basal ganglia. And as that transfer occurs and it goes into your basal ganglia, then that habit gets stamped in and it becomes more natural and normal for you to do it, such as working out every single day, eating proper food, and whatever you decide, waking up and going for a walk and beyond. Now, once that process happens, as you're seeing over here, what it does is it opens up more space in your prefrontal cortex. So you always want to be able to open up more space in your prefrontal cortex so you could add new habits and rituals. Now, here's one thing that's very important, guys. A habit or a ritual is not added. It's always replaced. Now, what do I mean by that? A bad habit could replace a good habit, and a good habit could replace a bad habit. So if you've been working out for so long and then you stop, then the bad habit is going to replace the good one. If you're somebody that smokes consistently, then you need to find what is the thing that is close to that, but it's not as negative, that will replace the smoking aspect of it. Because really what it is the trigger. So then you realize, hey, when I have an urge to smoke, let me just actually go outside and do breathing exercises. That's actually a trick, because a lot of people are like, oh my God, I'm addicted to smoking, which is a part of the nicotine and all that. But mostly they like it because it's the only time in the day they're actually taking the diaphragmatic breath, because they're actually there puffing. So more than the cigarette in itself, it's the breath work that they're actually appreciating. So that's why this process takes an average 66 days. Okay. Any
Chris,
questions
can I
before I
just
continue?
interject 1 second, because I think you're saying something extremely important. I just want to make sure everybody really gets this point that you're making, which is you're really replacing a habit with another habit, and the trigger is what you really need to be mindful of. And there was another, I think this is a very popular story somebody told, and somebody was addicted to cigarettes, and he couldn't, no matter what they tried to do, they couldn't get rid of this addiction. And then somehow, I think by accident, he ended up switching his cigarette pack with a pack of gum. And so he would put it in his car, and every morning when he got into his car, rather than taking the cigarettes out of his cigarette pack, he would take the gum and chew the gum. So to your point, it's really understanding what the trigger is, and then switching from one habit to another habit.
Thank you, Anna, for that, because it's 100% accurate. And the reality is the more you understand the biochemistry of your brain and body, you'll be able to use it accordingly. And everything's linked up with that. Even if we talk about dieting and food, when you're like eating, oh my God, I like to eat and all that stuff. But have you ever asked yourself, why are you eating? Is it because you're anxious? Because you're happy? Is it because you're bored? Once you understand the framework of it, then you're able to maneuver everything accordingly. Okay, so now we're following thus far. And by the way, like I said, if you guys have any questions, let us know in the chats. So as I started seeing this, and I did it for a full year and started developing this through my coaching practice, through me speaking on stages, through my academy, me and my team realized there's 6 main pillars of peak performance rituals in your life. And if you develop these 6 pillars, you're going to have a high performing life. Now, when we're talking about high performing life, let me just be clear here. What we're doing is we're finding the perfect recipe that works best for you. It doesn't mean that this recipe is something you're going to follow perfectly every single day. No, we don't want to be robots here. We're human beings. I believe our imperfection is our perfection. But I do want you guys to figure out what is that perfect recipe. So then if there's a day you need to be more effective, you're like, okay, I know I'm the most effective when I wake up at this time, when I eat this much food, when I drink this much water, when I do X, Y, and Z, when I'm dressed in a certain way, when I do my gratitude. As you know what the framework is, then you'll be able to utilize it to your advantage. So the first one we realize is your morning routine. The second one is your evening routine. Then it goes into your sleep routine, then your work routine, then your emotional routine, and finally your health routine. Now, I could literally speak hours on each of these pillars, subcategorize each of these pillars, so much so that actually I wrote my first ever book on health rituals, which is called Play for Profit, the correlation between sports and business. So I love that so much, I wrote a book about it. I've created a full academy on one of these. So for me, with the time frame that we have today, I wanted to go more in depth in your work routine to really give you guys the most value possible to get that competitive advantage in your field. And to do so, we're going to look at one main category. And as we're looking at that category, we always have to ask ourselves, what is that competitive advantage? Because the reality is, there's an 80-20 principle and rule, which is quite popularized. Let me give it, let's say, in a framework of a realtor, a stockbroker, whatever industry. 20% of the top people in that industry, let's say top brokers, have 80% of the market. And 80% of the rest of the brokers fight for the 20% that's left of the industry. So now the question is, why is it that one category of people are in the 80% of the bottom and fighting only for 20%, and 20% of the top tiers are winning 80% of the market? They're not better than the other people. They know how to write the contract like everyone else. The competitive advantage that they have is they know how to communicate in a way that is not only eloquent, but they understand the subconscious biases of the person in front of them. And this is by understanding something called the second language. Now, when I'm talking about second language here, I'm not talking about speaking more than one language. I'm talking about understanding that language is so much more in depth than just the words that we utilize. And the best way that I could explain this is talking about a research by Dr. Albert Mehrabian. He's a Stanford researcher, and he went exactly in this concept to figure out why some people succeed so much more than others when it comes to communicating. And as he went into that research, he realized that 7% of communication is only the words you utilize. 38% is your voice, intonality, and pauses, and 55% is your body language. And if we think about it, it makes perfect sense. As adult human beings, how many times have we said yes to someone when actually in the back of our minds, we're like, no, we don't want to do this at all. Our friend's like, hey, you want to go out to drink or whatever? And you're like, man, I just want to go to bed. I'm too old for this, but everyone's going out, so let's just say yes. So now, if we understand how to read somebody's body language, his intonation, and everything else, then we don't rely on the words in itself. Once we rely on the words, then we're actually blocked off in so many regards. That's why the top people in the industry succeed, because they really understand emotionally the person in front of them. And then they're able to navigate that. It's literally a cheat code. Okay, any questions before I continue?
Yes, we have questions. Go, guys. Ask him questions. Now is your chance.
And we will have a Q&A at the end as well, but throughout the process, let me know if you guys want to jump for questions. So go for it. Who has a question?
Armine just posted that it's a Pareto principle, right? 80-20 principle. It calls Pareto principle. Thank you, Armine, for mentioning
That is correct. That is correct. Merci, Armine. Thank you very much. Any other questions or no?
I'm sure there will be at the end.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Let's continue. Okay. Now, by understanding this first framework that we talked about, the next thing we have to look at, once again, if you want to be a top tier entrepreneur, and not only entrepreneur, but we're talking about a leader, if you want to be a top tier individual, because you're a parent, you're not, you have colleagues, you're always communicating. So you have to understand these frameworks. So to be an even better communicator, we're going to look at the 4 levels of communication. The first 2 is going to be the person that's speaking, and the next 2 is going to be the person that's receiving it. So the first level of communication is what you intended to say. That means what is in your mind? What are you actually thinking about? Like, okay, I want to say this to this person. The second level is what you actually say. So let me repeat that. First level is what you intended to say. You're like, okay, I'm going to say this to this person. And it's in your mind. And then when you're in front of them, you're like, oh, wait a minute. You say something, but it's not exactly what you wanted to say. Actually, 90% of the time, that means 9 times out of 10, what you intend to say is not what you actually say. So let's understand that aspect, just how crazy it is. Right now, we just went from understanding that only 7% of the words you use is communication, 38% is your voice intonation, 5% is body language, and now I'm telling you that 9 times out of 10, what you actually think in your mind is not what you're saying.
I love that, Chris. And I just want to just interject just for a second. If I'm assuming you can tell us, give us some advice as far as how do we deal with it better. For example, for me, what I do, I promised myself I'm never gonna like quickly answer and respond to somebody's question because I need some time to digest it. But if you have better options, please let us know. Share with us.
100%. I actually am going to share with that. Thank you very much, Anna. But that is a one that you just gave over there in regards to taking a breath, taking a time to think about before responding is one as well. So let's continue, and then we'll kind of unpack that all together. So now, once again, the person that's speaking, what he intends to say, what he says, 9 times out of 10, different. Now we're going to go into the other person that's receiving the information, what the other person hears. So now there's a question of what they actually find importance in what you're saying, because their perception is completely different than yours. Then we go into what the person thinks you mean. So the other person is trying to get into your perspective, into your shoes, and trying to figure out, why is he telling me this and beyond? So now, as a communicator, you understand that 9 times out of 10, what you intend to say is not what you actually say. Then the third level is, what does the other person hear? And then what the other person is trying to understand from his perspective to my perspective. And I'm sure we've all had these experiences in our lives that we say something. Let's say you're with your spouse, significant other, with a friend, close brother, sister, and then you say something in a heat of an argument or a passionate way. And then the second the word comes out of your mouth, you're like, oh my God, that's not what I meant to say. You try to catch that word because you know it's going to hurt their feeling, but it's already too late. Those experiences have to be controlled in a way that you navigate it. Another example, let's say the third point over here, what the other person hears. Once again, I'm going to use the example of let's say, selling a property, right? You're a real estate broker and you're sitting down in front of the vendors and you're presenting your offer. If I say, let's say they're selling their property for $400,000 and I walk in and I say, I'm going to do an offer and my offer is at $300,000. This is why I think it's $300,000 because we have to renovate X, Y, and Z. I don't think we're at the peak of the market and there's a lot of risk with the closing costs and beyond. That's option A of how I present it. Towards option B would be, I truly loved your property. Our clients are ready to buy it. They're a young family and they're really looking forward to building a life just like you guys did with your kids. And now that the kids left, I think there's so much potential in the house. Obviously, there are certain things we need to modernize, change the roof, the this, and we're at a time in a market that it is a bit more competitive. So there's so much options, but with all the options, they chose yours. That is why we're so excited today to offer you an offer for $300,000. Now, option A or option B, which one do you think the vendors will have an easier time of accepting and why?
Put it in the comments.
Yes, everything I'm saying, comment, or we're a smaller group, so you guys could, if you want, raise your hand and unmute yourself and ask it. So the question was, which option do you think will be easier for the vendors to accept? Option A or option B, and why?
People are saying it's option B.
Okay, beautiful. That is correct. And now why did they write that?
It's more personal or as on their level.
It's more personal. It's more on their level. Beautiful. Furthermore, think about it. Let's put ourselves in the shoe of the vendors. Let's say it's their most expensive asset they own, and now they want to move out, and all of their life savings on it. And maybe they want to go to retirement home or they want to travel the world. What they're thinking about is how much am I going to have in my pocket? Am I going to be able to live my dream? Am I going to be able to buy the boat and sail the world because that's what I want? So if I'm the person presenting it and the first thing I tell them is the price, do you think afterwards they're listening to anything else I'm saying? The second they hear their price, they're starting to think about their stuff. Oh my God, this is not enough. This is how much tax they're going to take out. They're calculating everything. So they're not even hearing why the price was presented like that. Towards previously, the second option, they're already at the edge of their seat. They're excited. They're like, oh my God, I want to know. And then you're creating the framework. You're solidifying the conversation of this is why we like this property. This is why we chose your property. This is why we think we need to modernize it. And then you're giving the price. So once they go on their tangent in their mind of the price, they understand why the price was there. So this is the third aspect of what the other person hears. So you have to be aware of what is the highest point that they're going to hear in that sentence and correlate it that accordingly. And then you have to understand their perception. Okay, that was two examples there.
Chris,
Any
one
questions?
second. Yes, can you just summarize the two examples again? Because I just want to make sure everybody is really clear on like what you were trying to present. Because option A and option B, just summarize those two examples again.
Yes. So option A was you go in and you say, I want to buy your property that was listed at 400,000 and I'm going to offer you 300,000 because we still have to do some work on it. It has to be renovated and the market is more competitive, but we still chose yours. Option A. Option B, you come in and you say, we're very excited to put an offer on your property. My clients are starting a new family, and you kind of explain the emotional attachment towards it. We say there's still certain things that we need to optimize in the house, renovate, and bring it up to date. And for that reason, we're so excited to put an offer of 300,000. So the aspect is we understand that the thing the person is going to hear the most is the price point. That's all they want to know. So we have to price the price point at the right place of our conversation so we have their attention, and not only their attention, but we're guiding them towards the right direction of why that's the price. Because let's say really the value of the house is 300,000. It is a fair value, but their perception is I want 400,000 for whatever reason. So those were the two options over here. Because now we're understanding the third and the fourth. Now, Anna, to your sentiment of like, hey, what are some tricks you could utilize to be a more eloquent communicator in these levels with the intention and really looking at, did I actually say that? Now, when you're having conversations back and forth with people, I don't think nor that I'm going to invite you guys to stop every single time and be very meticulous about the words that you use. No. Now, with time, it'll come more naturally. But what we're talking about here, using these four levels of communication, when it's very important conversations that you're going to have, such as, let's say you're a boss and you're going to fire someone. So before doing that, sit down and think about, what do I actually want to say? What is the other person going to hear? How am I going to present it? Let's say you're going to hire someone. Let's say you're going to court someone. You want to ask a girl out. You want to ask a guy out. These are the moments that I want you to really take a step back and understand these four levels of communication and structure your speech accordingly. And as you do this, naturally, neural networks will be created and a new pathway will be done. And the more you do it, the more the light from one neural network to another will become. And naturally, you guys will be able to do this in everyday life. And another sentiment, like Anna said, the second something happens to you, somebody says something, take a pause. I'm somebody that truly believes in, instead of reacting, take a pause and respond. One trick that I could give, if it's not in front of you, let's say it's a email you got a phone call, something happened and it bothers you, I always give the 2-night rule. If something, let's say, pissed me off about X, Y, and Z, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to respond to this person like this. Before responding, I tell myself, let me give 2 nights of sleep. The reason why I do that, when you're sleeping, your body is recuperating. Your brain is actually creating and balancing your emotional state. So I'm giving a chance to my body to really create that equilibrium. Because here's one thing, guys. When emotion is high, logic is low. And when logic is high, emotion is low. What we want to keep is that equilibrium. An example I could give with this, let's say, unfortunately, let's talk about COVID times. In the beginning of COVID, emotion was extremely high. Nobody knew what was going on. It was new to us. We were fearful. We were doing things with not a lot of logic, right? We all went out and bought toilet paper like it was the end of the world. We had no idea. Like logically made no sense. That's because emotion was very high. And counterpart is not either better either. We don't want to be robots here. So what we always want to keep is that equilibrium. So when a situation happens and you give yourself 2 nights to sleep it off, then that third day, you look at it and if you're like, okay, no, I really do need to speak to this person because that's not something I'm going to accept. I want to create my boundaries. At least you're in an emotional state that's a lot lower and more controlled, and then you could respond to it more eloquently. Or I'm not kidding you, for me, more than 90% of the time, after 2 days, I'm like, wow, it's not even worth my time or responding to it. So I'm in so much better emotional state and there's no problem on that end. Okay, let's continue over here. Now, this is a very famous question that was presented in Matrix, red pill or blue pill, when Neo presented this. The red pill was, you're going to find out the truth. The blue pill is, you're going to stay in your same reality. But once you take the red pill, you cannot unlearn what I'm going to teach you. And this is massively important for us as communicators. Why that is? People react more to their perception of reality than reality itself. Let me repeat this. People react more to their perception of reality than reality itself. What does this mean? Regardless if somebody's arguing about something and they are wrong or right, in their perception, they're actually right in their reality. So what we have to do is understand this framework, regardless if it's right or wrong. If you're looking at it on a binary level, then you're able to really take a competitive advantage. It is straight up like a cheat code. And now you're able to navigate the conversation and situation because you're understanding their perception. So what we're really talking about here is perception versus perspective. It's perception versus perspective. So perception is what I believe. This is my thoughts. This is what I was born. I believe in this. Perspective is you're putting yourself in the other person's shoe and you're trying to think, why are they thinking like this? Why are they acting like this? Why would they do that? Now, if us as communicators, as leaders, we're able to do this eloquently, as mentioned, this is probably one of the best cheat codes you could have in life, because then you're able to navigate it. And by understanding these frameworks, you're able to analyze a person's body language. You're able to look at, are they a left brain or a right brain, move accordingly, and communicate according to what they receive best. This one perspective here changed my life and changed my relationship with so many people. One example, my father. Love him to death. My father is, how old is he? How old am I? Wait a minute. We're about 3 decades of difference between me and my father. My father was born in Armenia back in the time that it was Soviet times, immigrated here, and he has his perception of life. And when I was younger, born in North America with my ideologies, with being a millennial, all that stuff, we used to clash a lot for absolutely no reason. And then I read this quote in the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. And he said, first seek to understand, then to be understood. Let me repeat that. First seek to understand, then to be understood. When I heard that, I'm like, wow, it's not my father's job to understand me as his son. It's my job as a son to understand my father. And then once I understand his perspective of like, hey, this man was born in a Soviet time, went through war, had this, that, and the other, I understand why he's speaking like that. So for me, how to utilize that to have a better relationship, have a better conversation. And this is just one example of my father, but this is active in every single person's life. And if you look at it, I would say 99% of all arguments is because of this, because it's one person staying in his perception and it's the other person staying in his perception, and they're fighting just for their perceptions. And you're just wasting time and energy for absolutely nothing. So as we're getting this, now we want to ask ourselves is how do we deliver a message in a way that's truly resonates with your community, with your clients, with your friends, with your loved ones. And the best way to go about that and understand that is through storytelling. The better you understand the framework of storytelling, the better you're going to convey this message. And if we go even more in depth, the best way I could explain this is by talking about my dog, Leo. He's a boxer. He was a big, muscular boy, 90 pounds. It's been now a couple of years that he passed away, but he lived a great life, 9.5 years, which is very long for a boxer's age, especially a big boy like that. One day he was sick. He had this little something, so I brought him to the vet. And then after we brought him to the vet checks him out, does his things, X, Y, and Z. And after a few moments, the vet's like, all right, cool. This is the pill that you need to give him. You have to give it to him 3 times a day. Beautiful. He's like, this is how you do it. You make him sit down. You open his mouth, you put the pill on the bottom of his throat, you close it, and then you rub his throat so he can do the gagging reflex and he'll naturally swallow it. So the vet does it, and instantly my dog swallows it up. I'm like, all right, cool. Couple hours later, when we're at home, it's time to give the second dose of the pill. So I'm like, Leo, come here, sit down. I open his mouth, put the pill in his mouth. Close it, start rubbing his throat. He gags it out. I'm like, that's weird. He didn't do that when he was with the vet. Do it again. Gags it out. Do it a third time. Gags it out again. Now, at this point, the pill is all mush. I can't even hold it anymore. I'm like, all right, cool. What's happening here? And then I start thinking, I'm like, my dog loves cheese. I'm like, let me cut a piece of cheese and put the pill inside. So now the second I open the fridge, I didn't even get close to the fridge. I just opened the fridge and he starts salivating. They know, energetically, they know. So I get a piece of cheese. I cut it up. I put the pill inside. Now I have his full attention. His ears are up. He's like looking at me. I'm like, Leo, sit. He's sitting down, salivating. I'm like, give me your paw. This, that, and the other. I have the cheese in my hand with the pill hidden inside. I just throw it up. He jumps up, leaps it up, swallows it up. In less than half a second, he swallowed it. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I could have taught you guys the aspect of the importance of storytelling. Or I could have just gave you a story that you guys are going to remember for the rest of your lives. So what are we talking about here? The storytelling is the cheese. The lesson that you're giving is the pill. If you're just giving the pill to the people, they're going to gag it out. It's nasty. Think about any professor that you've had maybe in university, and when you go in there and it's very dry, monotone, the way they explain it, they're trying to shove that pill down your throat. Just like Leo, you're probably going to gag it out. Towards that, think about that other professor that you've had that was maybe very enthusiastic, said stories, this, that, and the other, and you always remember the lessons because he understood the concept of storytelling. And if you understand it as well, regardless of what industry you are, you're going to succeed so much more with your sales and with your success rate. Now, the question is really storytelling a powerful tool? To do so, I want to talk about a research and a test that was done by this journalist, Rob. What he did, he bought a bunch of products on eBay, okay? And the products that he bought was like all random stuff. Every single product was 99 cents. He bought it off eBay. And these are actually the stuff that he bought, all random stuff. Then what he did, because he wanted to really look at it, what is the power of storytelling? He hired storytellers, authors, and communicators. He gave them all one of the items. And he said, I want you to write a story about this item. Make up a story. I don't care what it is. I want you to write a story about this item. They did that for every single one of the stories. And one of them that he did, and I'm going to give you one of the example, was exactly this horse's head. He bought it for 99 cents. Now, the person wrote a story about this. And it was all made up. Like, oh my God, this is the story. This is the head of this person that was a Stoic philosopher from this time to that time. This is how he used it in X, Y, and Z. So people saw this on eBay. Do you guys want to take a guess? How much did they buy this from? This was an auction. He had originally bought it for 99 cents and then he put it on an auction. Let's take some guess. How much do you think people have bought this for?
10K, 5,000, 100 pounds.
Okay, so you guys are like understanding the value of storytelling, but you're overshooting it a bit. It was
1K.
sold for $62.95. That is a 6,295% increase on the price. That is the power of storytelling. And he actually made thousands of dollars by selling all those items. Now, the goal wasn't to make the money. The goal was the research. This just shows the value of storytelling. When I said previously, if you have a technical skill 10 on 10, but your storytelling skills is 6 on 10, your communication skills is 6 on 10, people are going to perceive you like this. But the opposite is true as well. Once again, think of some people that you might have in your career that maybe always get the promotion and you're like, yo, they're not even good. The reason why they're able to do it in so many regards is because they're able to sell themselves. They're able to sell the idea because they have a good communication skills. And this is just a proof of it over here. So now that we understand this, we really have to look at the evolution of the Homo sapiens sapien, which is our human species. 10,000 years ago, the way we used to communicate was through story. We used to sit down next to the fire and we used to say, oh my God, I caught this saber-tooth tiger. This is how I did it. This is how it was. And by telling these stories, the young kids used to hear and they used to learn how to hunt and everything else. And then if you continue here, 27,000 years ago, we started through drawing. In the caves, they used to draw, oh, this is how we caught them, this is what it is. And then afterwards, 5,500 years ago, letters started coming, right? In symbols, but that was a way to communicate. So it was through writing and reading. And if we look at it, it is just in the last 38 years that PowerPoint got invented. So let's stop communicating in a PowerPoint sense. So my question to you guys, which way do you think the brain associates best to retain information? Through storytelling, through pictures, through writing, or through PowerPoint? Put it in the chat.
Storytelling.
Storytelling. Why that is because our evolutionary structure of the Homo sapiens sapien for thousands of years, tens of thousands of years, that's the way we transmitted information. So if you're going through a sales pitch, if you're speaking to someone and all you're doing is showing stats, all you're doing is showing pictures, you're showing PowerPoint, I'm not saying those are invaluable. But if the main subject is not through the story, the people are not going to understand you. So you have to be able to eloquently understand it and use it to your advantage. Now, as we understand this, how valuable storytelling is, it arises the same amount of emotions and hormones of when you first fall in love. Now, there's some of you, maybe you guys just fell in love. Maybe it's been years that you're with your significant other. Remember the time that you guys were dating in the beginning, how you had butterflies when you went on dates, how you were happy. That's because there was high level of serotonin in your body. There was high levels of oxytocin in your body, high levels of dopamines in your body, all positive hormones that activate you. So what I'm saying is, when you use storytelling, these hormones are actually acted up. So now we're going to go even more in depth over here. If we want to increase dopamine, which the positive effects of dopamine in a person is you're more focused, you're more motivated, and you have the higher memory, the best way to go about this and increasing is to creating suspense, is by creating a cliffhanger, and by storytelling. So now if you remember the previous example that I gave when I was doing the offer to sell the property, now you clarify even more option A, how it wasn't good because I gave the price right away, towards option B. Option B, I gave a cliffhanger. I created suspense. I did storytelling. I told them about my clients and their young family. That is increasing the dopamine levels of the vendor. They're more focused, they're more motivated, and they're going to remember more. So once again, if you're an entrepreneur, if you have a career, you want to go forward, you have to utilize this. This is something I call the angel cocktail. I'm going to talk about all the angel cocktail, which is the positive stuff. Then we're going to go into the last point, which is a devil cocktail. Next thing, oxytocin. What is the positive effects? It creates generosity. It creates trust. It creates bonding. As an entrepreneur, as a person, do you want people to create this bond with you, to trust you, and to create this generosity with you, like to be kind to you? I'm going to say yes, 100%. Now, the next thing is we have to ask ourselves, how do we go about doing that? Is by creating more empathy. Let's say empathy is a story that is more personable. I just gave you a small story, and I didn't even tap into the empathetic side of it as much with my father. I could talk to you about certain things that I've had in my life, losses and beyond. Everyone here on the phone, in the Zoom call has felt loss, has felt wins, has felt like they were in a horrible place in their life, has felt fear. These are emotions that everyone has felt. So if you're able to tap into those emotions with empathizing your story, people are going to connect with you. So they're already going to trust you. They're like, oh my God, this person's great or not, or what, X, Y, and Z. The last angel's cocktail over here is endorphins. It creates creativity. It helps the person relax more, and he's more focused. Once again, do we want the people around us, our employees, our colleagues, our bosses, our children, to have these things when we speak to them? Yes. Now, how do we go about doing that? We make them laugh. We don't take ourselves too serious. We joke around. This increases endorphins. When you're sad, watch a happy movie. Go watch a clip of a comedian, whatever the case is. These are positive things that we want. So as you're able to understand this and utilize it to your advantage when you're communicating, all of this is going to be in a better sense because they're going to be more relaxed around you. They're going to be more focused to what you're saying. Now, as we're getting this, the opposite is true as well. This is devil's cocktail. These are hormones that we don't necessarily want, right? Cortisol, adrenaline, these are negative things, but we could still utilize it to our advantage or understand what's happening. So what happens when adrenaline is there, right? We're more irritable, we're uncreative, we're more critical, memory's impaired, bad decision taking, all these things that we don't want. Now, the question is, how do we go about delivering this? We could scare them. Instantly by doing something different, scaring them. What is it doing? Oh my God, it's your fight and flight that response comes out. Now, as a communicator, you have to be very eloquent to utilize this. I would not tell you to utilize it if you don't know what you're doing, but imagine you're on stage or you're doing a presentation, you could 100% bring them down to bring them back up so they could see the discrepancy between the peaks and the valleys. So this is one way to go about it. Now, the next thing is when I say, hey, you know what? Do more stories in your communication and your sales. A lot of my clients tell me, Chris, I don't have stories. I don't live an interesting life like you or X, Y, and Z. And I don't have that voice like Morgan Freeman over here that, hey, I'm a great sports storyteller. No, no, no. Everyone's a storyteller. Here's how you could utilize and do this storytelling methodology. First, everyone, I want your mindset to change that you're storytellers. Everyone has stories. Everything that's happening in your life is a story. Next thing I want you to do is write down these stories. Write them down. A story being is what you're living. Let's say you were walking on the street today and then you went to Starbucks, and then as you go to pay to Starbucks, the barista says, oh, actually the person ahead of you just paid for your coffee. And then you look at it, how did that make me feel? I'm happy, I'm joyful, I'm shocked, I'm surprised. Okay, write that down. That's a story. And then you realize, what is the emotion you felt? So then as you associate that emotion with the story, then you're able to correlate that and use it for your methodology if you want to teach people that. Then index all of your stories over here. So write them down, put them down in notes. So now, one thing I'm going to finish over here. We're going to go to action mode. I truly, truly hope whatever you learned today, you take it and you utilize it. Because to know and not to do is really not to know. To learn and not to do is really not to learn. So I hope you guys got inspired, motivated, but most importantly, I hope you guys got some tricks and methodologies. Now it's for you to implement it. And if you saw value over here today in, let's say, 40 some minutes that we've been speaking, I actually have a full academy that I teach top tier entrepreneurs to speak more eloquently about their service, product, and ideology, how to get on stages, how to do webinars and everything with that. We created 4 pillars with that, with 23 plus lessons, videos that is pre-recorded, with the guides that supports, with a group coaching on a weekly basis, and an international community. If you guys are interested to have a chat about this, you could set up click the link over here, take a picture of it, and it will be my pleasure for me and my team to have a conversation with you. It will be mostly me in this regard, and to see if there is a fit on that end. And as I mentioned, I did write a book, which I launched recently, which we're actually translating in Armenia. It's going to be launched in Armenia very soon, about the correlation between sports and business, which is called Play for Profit. And I wrote it with my colleague over here, Matthew Zaboyk. He's a top 10 CrossFit coach worldwide. Last thing I'm going to mention here before going into the questions. The only true wisdom is knowing you know nothing. Socrates. This is a very important quote for me. Actually, literally, I have it on my wall over here. I have another one here. And in front of me, I have like 18 other quotes that inspire me and motivate me. Now, why I'm telling you this is important, it's kind of scary. I just said, I truly believe in this. It's been 40 some minutes that I'm speaking to, and now I'm saying that I don't know nothing. The reason why that is every single time I learn something new, I realize how much there is to learn. So all I'm saying here is please be a student of life. Education doesn't stop when you're done your degree, when you leave school. It's an ongoing process. Thank you very much, guys.
Wow.
That was a lot to take in for sure. Thank you so much. It's amazing. First and foremost, I just want to tell you guys, Maria and I had a little bit of an opportunity to work with Christopher, and I highly, highly recommend his academy and his books and recordings and so on. So if you are even thinking about it, you don't have to like make a decision or anything. Just talk to him. Just have a conversation, because there's many, many different options. And also my favorite saying is if and when. It's if and when. Okay, so when the time comes, it might not be right now, it might be down the road, but it's good idea for us to understand what our options are. But I'm sure we have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions, but I'm going to let everybody else go first before me.
Yeah, please feel free to ask questions or share your life examples maybe that resonated with you during the talk of Christopher.
Don't be shy now.
I don't have a question, but I want to say, Chris, I'm so happy to have you today here as our guest and speaker. I always enjoy the way you present information. It's always clear, engaging, and full of insights. And I have been following you for a long time, and I'm a big fan of you.
Please message me. Please message me so we could connect, so I could follow back. I don't know, what platform do you follow me on?
We met at the Femino conference where you were one of the speakers 2 or 3 years ago. I don't
22.
remember.
Yeah, 2022.
Yeah. And I've been looking forward to our meetings. Maybe we will have another session also. And you know, I have to say I can never miss your attention to detail. The suit, the pocket square, and the shirt are always on point. Thank you very much.
I appreciate that, Armina. Yeah, I'm very meticulous in the way that I choose my things, and fashion is one of my passions. So I do appreciate that.
I see. And I appreciate it.
I love that. Cheers.
Anyone else has a question, guys?
Yeah,
Someone is asking.
Yeah.
Yes, Jan. Please ask the question that you dropped in the chat, but you can ask.
Okay. It's about habits, really. About, you were saying that there's quite a range about hardwiring your habits from, what did you say, 18 to 200? I can't remember what you said now. So I'm curious about how some habits are quicker to hardwire than others, and what is talking about the neurology behind it, but why is that? And yeah, because there's some habits I'm just it's so hard and I understand you're saying about the trigger, but sometimes it's difficult to know what the trigger actually is.
So that is a great question. Thank you very much for bringing that up. how it kind of works, there's several factors. First and foremost, there's your limiting beliefs, right? So if you have a limiting belief that's stronger than someone else, let's say for working out, then you're going to have a harder barrier to go over that before going into the aspect of that prefrontal cortex, getting into your basal ganglia. So first, there's limiting beliefs. And everyone on this beautiful blue planet of ours has limiting beliefs. And these are given to you from the day you're born, from your ideologies, from where you are, and your experiences. So there's that. Second thing, there is biology. So you're biologically framed in a way for certain habits to be easier for you. Let's say somebody is a great cook, okay? And let's say somebody's not a great cook. The person that's a great cook, if we tell them, hey, do a lower carb diet, do a higher protein diet, this is how you have to meal prep and X, Y, and Z, it's going to be so much easier for them to meal prep because the skill set of cooking is something they already have. Towards the other person, let's say they're as motivated, they have to learn that skill set as well. So these are the factors that come about. Or another example, let's say somebody is overweight, but in their young life, let's say they were athletes. And then after they were an athlete, they kind of stopped working out, so they gained weight. That person is going to be easier to lose the weight because there's muscle memory compared to somebody that, let's say, has been overweight their whole life. So there is this neural network that gets created. So in your brain, we have billions of neurons, okay? A neuron essentially is an information point, and then one neuron sends to another, there's an electricity that gets passed to one to another. And the more that electricity gets passed, it gets thicker and thicker and thicker, and it becomes more like a root of a tree, right? A new tree that gets planted has smaller roots. A tree that's 100 years old has thick roots. So the more you develop that habit, the roots get thicker. So it really depends upon what is your past reality of creating that neural network. But the more you do it, the more it gets created, the more thick it becomes. Such as one example I give. Has anyone had this experience that, let's say you get in your car after work and then your mind is busy because you have so many things to think about, and then you arrive home and then you realize, wow, I didn't even remember driving here. That's because your body has created that neural network so much and it's become so thick because every single day for years, you're taking the same route at the same time, you're seeing the same lights, that it becomes second nature to you. So that's why certain habits take longer compared to other. It depends about, is that neural network already created or it's a complete new one that we're developing within your brain? Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean it does, but it's obviously there's from that I'll need to ask about 1,000 other questions.
I'm
But
here
I
for it
guess
if you
But I
want.
my
won't, I
question
won't.
would be to follow up with that, with Sean's question. How do you become a better storyteller? So obviously there's probably 50-50. You know, some people are or naturally better storytellers, and some people can learn to become better storytellers. What I don't want to call it tricks, but what can you tell us about how do we become better storytellers?
So
Yeah, and there was one more question exactly on this point. What if my story feels very like ordinary? Should I change it? Should I put some like, I don't know, more effects on it to be more interesting and engaging? So Inga was asking about that.
So very good questions. Thank you for that. So 100%, there's, like I said, literally have an academy on this. I could speak about it for hours and hours and hours and the nuances of it. First and foremost is those 4 levels of communication. That's why I wanted to offer it to your community as a gift. Once you understand those 4 levels of communication, you're going to be so much better positioned to create your story. Just like the example we gave with the house, right? Because I understood those 4 levels of communication, I was able to place the amount of the buying of the purchase of the property at the right moment of my storytelling. And storytelling is kind of like jokes as well. It's about the timing. So once you understand the framework, then you're positioning the information at the right places within the story. One. Second thing, why did I go into showing Dr. Albert Mehrabian's ideology? Because now we understand that storytelling is not the words you use. It's more the voice and intonation and even more the body language. So where are you taking your pauses? What are you emphasizing on? How are you showing it with your body language? That conveys a more attractive way to keep them engaged. Next thing I'll say over here, nobody's born a great storyteller. Nobody's born an athlete. Some people say, oh, okay, I have a certain efficiency of having it. That's because you've gone through certain things in your life. The first time I did that speech in 2017, I've never done a speech in my life, and I was really good at it. That's because at a young age, like I said, in school, I had no choice to develop my communication skills because I had dyslexia, but I didn't know that was what's happening. The counterpart to that, this is a skill like anything else. You could develop it by understanding pauses, by increasing your vernacular, by learning new words, by being able to figure out what is your voice intonation and all of that. So there's so many factors. Like I said, I gave you a couple over here. We could go in so much more in depth, but mainly if we just talk about other than those fours, take pauses more than you guys think. By taking pauses in your communication methodology, create suspense. And as well, it adds the aspect of you guys highlighting certain parts of the information that you want. So that's how I would answer that in certain regards.
By the way, to that point, I just want to acknowledge we have someone very special in our community today who is coming in as a guest, Dr. Anne-Marie Lombard from Cape Town, South Africa. Hello, Dr. Anne-Marie. I'm so glad you were able to make it. I know it's late for you, but she obviously, your sensory intelligence and you do your work is in sensory intelligence and in neurosciences of people and human beings, which is what we're talking about right now. Can you kind of give us your perspective of what Christopher was saying? And just quickly introduce yourself to the community. It's your first time here with us.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Lovely to be here. Anna-Marie Lombard, Cape Town, South Africa. I'm an occupational therapist, have done a PhD, and the work that I do, Yashan, I see you're an OT as well.
I'm an OT as well.
My basis is sensory processing. I've done my PhD in a call center. I use sensory intelligence for assessments, people development, training, coaching, and it's really all around how does the brain perceive our 7 senses through the environment, and how does that facilitate attention, emotion, and behavior. And if we use that identity of and understanding ourselves and people in our lives, it really helps us to make better decisions, have less stress, better time management, better energy, because the senses are the gateway to the top of the brain. It all starts from the environment and at the bottom and then reaches up to the top. So yeah, so thanks for the introduction. And I don't know if I can comment on Christopher, because I think, did I miss something? I came up late on the call, seems to me.
Okay. Well, we will have a panel discussion at some point. Marie and I are working on something very, very special because we're going to have some of our most dear and to heart colleagues and coaches and presenters together in a form of a panel discussion. So I would love to invite both of you to be part of our
Thank you.
discussion, which will happen probably after the summer because there's a lot going on right now. But I just wanted everyone to meet you and you to meet everyone else, and hopefully we'll invite you down the road to come and just kind of tell us, share your intelligence with us and your wisdom with us. But going back to Christopher, does anyone have any other questions for Christopher about anything to do with peak performance, having better habits, understanding yourself, becoming a better communicator, right? Which I think we all need. No matter how good you are, you can always improve upon it. For me, I will say my biggest, I think I'd say a skill that I have is I just don't care. If I make a mistake, I just laugh at myself, with myself. I just don't care. And I think that served me very well in life, because even when I first moved to United States, when I was 17 years old, and I didn't even speak English properly, people would like correct me, and I was like, oh, thank you so much. And I would just be like so appreciative of that. So anything else, Chris, you want to add? Or once again, I just want to make sure everyone is aware what Chris does is, oh my God, it's so vital. I can't even tell you. If there is a way that for you to be able to connect with him, follow him on social media. Chris, why don't you drop in your social media links here, and also we'll put in your links in our private group as well. Everybody, just make sure you have a lot of wisdom. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your wisdom today. And I just want to make sure that, are there any other questions from our community that you guys can give while we have Mr. Christopher Dedeyan with us today?
Can I ask another one or
Yes,
not?
please, of course.
Okay. It's a question about sort of like it's just being I'm just being curious about myself really, about how you make that first step. There's a getting out of your own way, or whatever you want to call it, because there's a couple of things recently. I mean, Anna knows that I've just started writing for the first time, and it's like, why did I do that? You know I have my reasons, but it's taken me years and years and years. But I just wondered if you got any thoughts or comments on how do people take that first step? And it's kind of, yeah, I mean, I've just got some thoughts, but I'd just be curious about your thoughts.
Great question. Great question. Once again, I'm going to answer it in two parts. First and foremost, when it comes to having the energy to do something or just starting off and getting it done, people often think they need to get inspired, which will motivate them to do the work, then they'll do the action. They think it's linear, but it's actually circular. So that means you could take action, which will inspire you, and then it'll motivate you, and then you'll do a bigger action. And then it's a loop, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So what are we saying over here? I would invite you to take the smallest action you can in regards to what you want to do. So you're saying, hey, you want to write. Let's say you want to do a blog post and you're shy about it. Okay. Instead of posting it right away and writing a full blog post, because that could feel like intimidating, it could feel a lot. I'm just going to invite you to be like, okay, let me just sit down today and write just the title of what I'm thinking about, of what I want to write. All right. Sit down. That's your minimal thing. And then once you do it, you're done. But if you have the energy to continue, you continue. And then you realize, okay, next day, let me write a sentence. And then after your whole blog post is done, it's written after X amount of time, you're like, okay, let me just post it. So what we're talking about here is the minimal viable effort. This is a ideology that was presented by Stanford researchers, Dr. PJ Fogg. So once we understand that an action could create motivation, inspiration, and it gets bigger and bigger, then it's less intimidating of what the action is. That's one thing. Now, second part, what I was kind of getting stemmed from your question, is the fear of what people might perceive. Am I good enough? Am I enough? X, Y, and Z. The way I look at it in that end is, as much as possible, I keep my 10 toes down and I humble myself of, really, everyone's dealing with their own stuff. Everyone has their own insecurities. Everyone has their own lives. They really don't care about what you're doing. So whatever you're posting out there, nobody's gonna be like, oh my God, look what Christopher posted. It was so outrageous, X, Y, and Z. No, everyone's dealing with their own things, which is beautiful. I'm not saying people are not going to see your stuff, but understanding that framework. This is what I teach to my clients when they go on stage. Like, oh my God, there's 1,000 people. I'm like, real talk? They're not even going to notice because they're stressed sitting down in a crowd of 1,000 people being like, oh my God, am I wearing the right dress? Oh, did this person look at me? They're in their own heads. So once you understand this framework that everyone's in their own head, then you're more free to present yourself. And the last part to this, the way I look at it, is you're giving a gift. So if God gave you the power to write, then write. That's a gift. You're offering it to the world. You're offering it to the marketplace. So if you look at it in those three frameworks, first and foremost, minimal viable effort. Second, everyone's dealing with their own thing. So like, don't overthink it. And then third would be that it's actually, you're giving a gift. You have to be value driven. Bring value. After you bring value, that will create impact. After you create impact, then income will come as entrepreneurs. Not the other way around. Don't be like, oh my God, I need to make money and then I'll create value, then I'll create income. No, impact. No, bring value. The more value you bring, the more money comes your way. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah,
and
no,
I think
brilliant. Thank you.
Luz has a question, I believe. Luz, you can unmute yourself. But before Luz talks, I just want to tell you, I love this so much. If we could just remember, if you forget everything else from Chris's discussion today, just remember, each of us has a God-given gift.
Yes.
Let's all try to figure out what that God-given gift is and utilize it. That's our purpose in life, to figure out our God-given gift and give it to the world. People need it. So thank you so much. And, Sean and I are part of another group, and we're working on figuring out how do we, grow our business. And blogging and, you know, posting and creating content is really important. And I think what you're saying is just resonates with me so much. I really thank you for that.
Anna, it just made me think of something. I'm going to share something. When I was young, my father always used to tell me, "Şapka khosisi of pilosopayes, getsiral," which translates to "you speak too much and you're a philosopher. Like, stop philosophizing." Because I was just a kid that always used to speak and all that stuff. And literally now I'm making a career out of this. So to your
Yeah.
sentiment is we have to understand what are our strengths, God giving us a talent. And the best way you could find that strength is what is the thing that you do the best that demands a less amount of effort? That's your talent. Now, don't sit on your laurels, like I had mentioned. Because of my dyslexia, I acquired a certain level of speaking skill, but I'm a geek about this. I analyze it, as you guys saw, in a way that it goes so much more in depth. So ask yourself, what is the thing that you do that you would literally do it for free because you love it so much? That's usually where your strength is. Now, your weaknesses, I'm not saying leave it weak, develop it. But if you're trying to get your weaknesses to become your strength, I don't think it's the easy way to go about that. So thank you for highlighting that, Anna.
Luz, please unmute yourself.
Yes.
Hi, Anna. Thank you. Hi, Maria. And thanks, Chris. This was really good, really valuable information. My question, actually, I have two-part question. The first one is about the habits. So when you mentioned that you're replacing one habit with another, and hopefully with a toxic habit with a more healthier habit, what made me think is this idea of a need. So let's say in Anna's example of the person coming into the car and replacing the cigarette with the gum, I think that inherently is like a need, and that's why it like triggers like to like a coping mechanism. So instead of like immediately like jumping into like quitting smoking and replacing it with exercising, and then suddenly exercising becomes that coping mechanism, even though it's healthy, maybe it doesn't like dive deep into why you have that need in the first place. Like, what are you coping with? And then like so what's one way to kind of like be mindful of what are these needs before you quit something and then you replace it with something else? Or is it possible to not have a need in the first place, to realize that you're whole in the first place, and then you don't need any exercise? I mean, obviously it's good to exercise, but then you don't need these sort of like external activities to feel that void or whatever triggers that need to then either, you know, smoke, eat, whatever. Just kind of like reflecting on that, and maybe after that, if we have time, I'll ask one more question about storytelling.
Luz, I love that question, and you kind of answered it in certain regards there. So I'm just going to fill in some of the gaps over here. So when you have, like you said, a habit, let's call it a bad habit or one that we want to get rid of, how do we look at it, and do we need to replace it from something else? So the first thing you need to do, which is the answer to the question, is have massive clarity. So go with the stem of why am I doing this particular thing? Once you have that clarity aspect of it, then you're able to know this is what I actually like out of it more than X, Y, and Z. So then you're like, all right, how do I replace that in a positive way? Once again, let's use the cigarette example. I actually like to take a 15-minute break to go smoke when I'm at work with my colleagues, because first of all, it gives me a break. Second of all, I love to sit down with my colleagues because that's the only time we actually have a chance to talk and be like, oh my God, did you watch the game? Oh my God, what are you doing this weekend at X, Y, and Z? So then you realize that the main thing out of that experience is what? The connection with others. So that clarity, first of all, understands that I'm actually like, or I'm craving that connection. So now you're like, all right, cool. How can I get that connection that doesn't include the cigarettes? So then you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe let's create a mastermind group after work, or let's go with my friends playing poker afterwards, and we're still having that same type of conversation. It's you figure out that clarity of what that habit is bringing you and you're enjoying. And then from there, you find a better way to get that same experience. Because most of the time, it's a question of what is the connection? What is the love? What am I trying to get out of that experience? And as I alluded to as well, in regards to the cigarette, a lot of times it's just your breathing methodology. we don't take time to take a step back and just take an actual diaphragmatic breath, to do box breathing. And life gets so fast. So the first way I would say that is just get massive clarity of what that habit is bringing you. And if we're talking about, let's say, working out or whatever the case is, the main reason I work out, I love the adrenaline and the endorphins and serotonins that I get after working out. So I'm like, all right, this is a good adrenaline. How do I get it otherwise? If I can't work out that day, let me just go do a cold plunge, because I'm putting my body in that shock position. And then once you get out of cold water, it is physically impossible to be unhappy afterwards. If I put you guys in like almost freezing water, the whole time your brain's like, oh my God, we're going to die, because you are in a framework that you can die. What it does, it shoots up your cold proteins, which helps you recuperate. And then the second you go out, it releases all of these serotonins in your body, which naturally makes you happy. The same thing of when you work out. And when I mean work out, you could go out for a walk. Luz, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was really good. I like this idea of finding the reason why that habit has been formed in the first place. Thank you. Do I have time for one more question? It's a quick one.
Please do.
Yes, thank you. It's a two-part question in the sense, how so the line between storytelling, persuasion, and manipulation can be thin sometimes. So how do you not find yourself in the receiving end of that when someone is extremely persuasive and they use their storytelling to sell you something that you might not necessarily need? And then one other question is kind of related, kind of not, is like and how do you use humor? What are some like ways you learned that to use humor? Like one of the ideas is like not punching down but punching up, or kind of like any like humor frameworks. I would really appreciate any thoughts on that. Thank you so much. That's all of my questions.
Luz, okay, I love that. A lot of great points. So first and foremost, the methodology that I actually get a lot in that question, you're like, hey, what you're teaching, you could use it negatively, right? You can manipulate people. You're absolutely right. I'm going to ask you a question, Luz. What is the difference between a leader and somebody that is manipulating someone? What is the difference? Would you know what it is? Or does somebody know what the difference is between a leader and a manipulator? Nobody? Okay. I'm going to guide you. You guys are going to be a bit clear. Maybe the question is not that clear. Because the talent in itself, a leader and a manipulator has about the same talent. They could get other people to do what they want. The main difference, and the very important difference, is a leader does it for the greater good. Towards the manipulator is doing it for his own benefit, regardless of the other person, if it's bad for them. The methodologies that they use is very similar, but the end goal is different. Even as a leader, and like I'm sure there's a lot of leaders here, it's been so popularized, or like, oh my God, being a leader is great, but it's a hard thing. You have to take some tough decisions when people think it's like not the right decision, but you know in your heart of heart, this is the right decision. And then it's only X amount of time afterwards, it's like, oh wow, that was the right decision, even though it was hard. So Luz, to your sentiment, the way I go about it, and I teach it, I only teach it to communities like this because I know Anna and Maria, and they're like amazing people. I energetically connect with them. So I know they attract the same amount of people. If there were people that I didn't energetically connect with, I would not give this information because you guys could use it for bad. So my thing is, it really comes down to the person in itself. If they are people that have great values and they're doing it for the greater good and they're trying to do it, then these are methodologies you need. Furthermore, you need it because there are people that are malicious out there. So once you understand the framework, and then people are using it against you, and like, oh, I know what he's doing because I understand it, and he's doing it for negative things, then you're able to navigate it. I want this information to go out there as much as possible for good people, because the bad people know how to use this, but they use it for their own malicious reasons and needs. If you want to know more about this, go check out Robert Greene. Dr. Robert Greene's works on this, the 48 Laws of Power. I prefer more the law of human nature. He goes more in depth with this, but it is a slippery slope. But anybody that succeeds at high level, honestly, you have to be able to navigate that. So storytelling is in the same framework. It's understanding the biochemistry of the brain and body and utilizing it for your advantage. But the best thing I could say, listen, I'm a God-fearing individual. I put God first. So everything that I do is with that ideology. That's how I live my life. So I know that I'm trying to do my best with what God needs me to do. So that's how I go about it. And it doesn't have to be God. I'm not being religious here, but it has to be what your values are. Does that answer your question,
Thank you
Luz?
so much.
Yes,
And I
thank
just
you.
want to tell you that in the interest of time, we're almost to
Yes.
1.5 hours now.
Mhm.
So I'm going to thank Christopher Dedeyan again.
We have
dropped
one
you.
more question, if it's possible. Mariam asked very interesting question. Let's ask this one more
Yes.
and we are
Go
done.
ahead.
And thank you, Chris. So Mariam is asking, unfortunately, her mic doesn't work, so isn't working. Her message is, I am a business development manager in sales. So some people think we sellers are manipulators. We invent storied we cheat them in order to sell a product. Sometimes they don't even care about the story, but what can we do for them? How their life will be easy if they partner with us? Did
Okay,
you
I love
face
that.
this kind of challenge in your career life? How do you overcome it? In my case, I'm working on my emotions, like trying to show them what emotion they'll get or they will not get by using our service or product.
Okay, I love that. Very in-depth question. Thank you, Mariam, for asking that. I'm going to answer that in the most in-depth possible with the time frame that we have here in 4 minutes. Okay, so do I get that? I am a coach and a professional speaker. 100% I get that. I would say more than 95% of the population might think I'm an old car salesman because they don't have that ideology of what I'm selling. But that doesn't matter, Mariam. It's what you believe. I drink my own Kool-Aid. I have 8 coaches and mentors, and I've seen how it's changed my life. I never even thought of being a coach and a speaker. It's because I learned so much information that at a certain point it stemmed out of my face and my ears that I had to give it to others. So first, if you want to be a great salesperson, you have to believe the product. If you are not believing the product in your heart of heart, then that's where the problem lies. If you're selling something you do not believe, that's the problem. If you truly believe it, then you're in the right track. Now, if the person in front of you doesn't believe it, that's okay. You say the product, you're really believing like, hey, I honestly believe this could help you because it's changed my life. Now, instantly what's happening, Mariam, is your energy's changing. Your frequency's changing. So you're attracting the right people. It's really what it comes down to. But whoever else doesn't believe it, those aren't even clients that you are going to attract, nor you want. I wouldn't wish it upon you to be able to sell a product to someone that doesn't want it because that's going to cause you problems. They're going to be unhappy, and it's going to be 90% of your energy to try to make them happy instead of working with all the other clients that are happy. So it starts with the vendor, the salesperson. Do you believe in your product? And if the answer is no, then I will tell you, run away from that product, run away from that job. There's many other things. Don't call it like out of practicality. Oh my God, I have bills to pay and it's good paying job, so I have to stay. The reason why there's this ideology of salespeople being bad is because back in the day that had been perpetuated. But nowadays it's not like that. So you have to be very comfortable with the product and truly believe in it. If you do, then whoever's on the same wavelength of you, you'll be able to sell it. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Can I just add one more thing to that? Because I think this is such a cool topic and we can have an entire conversation and another session on this. Maybe not next Friday, but the following Friday. But here's what I would say to Mariam. First of all, I think first thing we have to do is to actually like and understand the fact that salespeople and sales in general is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. And we should all have the skills of a salesperson because at the end of the day, every single human being, every single one of us, number one, first and foremost, we sell ourselves. We sell ourselves, then we sell our product, then we sell our company, or we sell our whatever it is that we're associated with whether it's nonprofit, for profit, whatever it is, with university, whatever it may be. So being a salesperson is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. So that's the mind shift first. Then to Chris's point, you have to agree, you have to believe in whatever you're selling. Like for me as a financial consultant, I remember when I first got into business, before I even had children, I bought certain products that, I believed in because, and I'm not going to get into the details or the technical aspect of it, but when I sat down with clients and I would offer them these type of products, I would say, look, I bought them and the reason I got them for me and my family is X, Y, and Z. Because if I didn't believe in it, if I didn't stay behind it, then why would I give it to you? And the last thing I would mention for Mariam is, you know, being a salesperson to me means that your job is to really understand your client and help them navigate through the decision-making process and figure out what products and services that they actually need, because there's so much noise out there. So that's your job, to really help them. You have a lot of tools in a toolbox, whatever your profession may be. You have a lot of tools in a toolbox. Your job is to match the right tool with the right client. So hopefully this was, you know, interesting and it was helpful. And I am so sorry, but we have to go. We have to leave because the time is up, and I do have another client meeting that I have to jump onto. But thank you. We will take a break next Friday. We don't have a session next Friday. We will see everyone the following Friday. And thank you, everyone. And first and foremost, thank you again, Christopher. This was amazing. And by the way, everybody, I dropped Christopher's information in the comment section. His LinkedIn, his Instagram account. So if you haven't already, please follow him. Please listen to his videos. It's very, very educational. And I also dropped a link to our private group. So if you're interested in joining our private group, which is where we do a lot of discussions about life and about, you know, elevating yourself, please use the link to join our group as well. Thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you 2 weeks from now. And
Thank
I'm
you,
sorry,
everyone.
Silva. By the
That's
way,
okay.
everyone, we have somebody very special joining us, Silva Kachikian, who is the president of Iowa, which is Armenian International Women's Organization.
Hello.
But next time, hopefully. Thank you so much.
I apologize for joining so late. I had the East Coast time as opposed to Pacific time in my mind, so that's
No, it's
okay. I will be more aware of it next time.
No
Thank you.
problem.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Chris, and until next time.
Bye, guys.
Bye,
Thank you again.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.